Hello everyone. In the previous lesson, we discussed gestures such as multi-touch and long press, as well as the 5 principles of animation design. Today, in the final lesson of the course, we will cover the common types of interface animation design.
Let's start with a few basic animations. They can be used for both element animations and transition animations. The first one is displacement and velocity. Displacement refers to the distance that an object travels from one position to another. In animations, the dynamic effects are generated by the changes in displacement. Velocity is an inseparable variable from displacement, with the same displacement but different velocities. Elements can exhibit various dynamic effects, such as constant speed, acceleration, deceleration, ease in, ease out, etc. Changes in velocity can add a sense of motion and attract attention more easily. The two images below depict element animations on the left and transition animations on the right, both of which are frequently used. The second fundamental animation effect is zooming in or out. The process of zooming in or out of interface elements is known as zooming in or out. It is important to note that the scaling should be done in a proportional manner. Let's look at two examples. The first one uses proportional zooming in and out of an image for a transition effect, while the second example demonstrates the transformation of a selected element using the scaling of graphic. Utilizing these animation effects effectively can create smooth and visually appealing effects. The third fundamental animation effect is deformation and color change. As the name suggests, it involves the transformation of the shape or color of interface elements. It involves the deliberate modification of the shape or color of interface elements triggered by user interactions or design changes. We often use coherent states to depict and express the functional changes of elements. The two examples on the right illustrate this concept. The seamless transformation from a square to a circle represents a coherent shape change, while the toggle switch below demonstrates the functional change through coherent states. You have designed switch buttons in previous homework assignments, and you can further modify them based on the animation effects of deformation. Let's look at a few more examples. The first image shows the deformation from an unfollowed button to a followed state after being touched. The image on the right is also cleverly designed, using deformation to transform the settings icon in the top left corner into an X icon smoothly, showcasing the functional change through deformation. The last image demonstrates a noticeable deformation, transitioning from a rectangle to a circle. You can learn from this display method. Now let's move on to color change. Color change is relatively simple and can be used for both transitions and changes between elements.
Now let's talk about some other animation effects. Compared to the previous 3, these may not be as commonly used. You can choose based on your own page content.
First is the flip effect, which can involve a 180-degree rotation to create a 3D effect on interface elements, or a 90-degree fold effect. It can be used to depict the generation and departure of new elements through a spatial framework. This animation effect works best when complemented by page content. For example, take a look at the ticket selection animation for a movie theater on the right side. It cleverly uses flipping to simulate the ticket printing process. In the mid-image on the right, flipping reveals additional information behind, achieving space-saving effects. The fifth animation effect we'll discuss today is offset and delay. It is used to express the relationship between elements when introducing new interface elements or themes. This slightly offset presentation can capture the user's attention and make the page elements appear less rigid. This animation effect is especially suitable for list-style interfaces, such as the example shown below. The sixth animation effect is value change, which is quite commonly used in interface animations. It refers to expressing the relationship between the previous and current values in a continuous and dynamic way. When an element's value changes, this animation can be used whenever our interface involves numbers. Especially in interfaces with multiple numbers, such as maps, shopping settlement, stock displays, outdoor sports, and more. The seventh animation effect is overlay and parallax. The image on the left demonstrates the overlay effect, while the image on the right represents parallax. Although there are two different animation effects, they share a common feature. They use the relative positioning of stacked elements to depict their flat spatial relationship and create a sense of depth in the interface. This aligns with the design principle of hierarchical display we discussed in the previous lesson. Let's look at two examples respectively. Both of these animated images utilize the overlay effect. In the image on the left, a simulated page-turning technique is used, while the example on the right creates a visual sense of space through a fading in and fading out effect. The following two examples showcase the parallax effect. Parallax elements can move in any direction and have various shapes. However, it is important to note that there should be differences in size between the elements. The eighth animation effect is split and merge. It refers to using a seamless and coherent approach to depict the relationship between newly copied elements and existing ones.
Let's take a look at a simple example.
This is an animation designed for an app's onboarding interface. Objects will split or merge based on the user's interactive behavior, allowing users to clearly perceive the split and merge relationships between the objects. The ninth animation effect is object switch. This animation effect is more commonly used compared to the previous ones. It can be employed when users switch between objects, either as an element animation or as a transition effect. The characteristic of this animation effect is that the current object moves to the background, while the new object moves to the foreground. Let's see an example where this animation effect is used as a transition effect. The object switch effect can clearly indicate a switch between objects or applications, allowing users to perceive the retraction of the original object and the appearance of the new object. The 10th animation effect that you should master is page flipping. It refers to the effect commonly seen when users perform a slight gesture to flip between pages.
For these two examples, we can observe that this animation effect is often used for transitions between pages.
This type of transitional animation effectively illustrates the information architecture of a list and enhances the user experience. The 11th animation effect is the fixed tab. This is an essential animation for every user interface. It refers to the behavior where as users scroll through a list with tabs, commonly seen in fixed headers. The tabs remain fixed at the top of the list. This effect combines navigation and content browsing. You can understand it by looking at the example image on the right. Let's look at two examples in the pages with a regional navigation bar, where sliding the navigation bar's position remains fixed at the top or gets pushed on the top. This animation effect clearly demonstrates the relationship between the content and the text. The 12th animation effect is button-to-tab transition. This animation effect is often used in conjunction with the previous one. It refers to the behavior where navigation at the same level visually transforms into tabs based on content switching. Let's look at two examples. As the content is split left or right, the navigation bar at the top changes correspondingly. This animation effect clearly demonstrates the hierarchical relationship between the tabs and the content, enabling users to understand the structure. The last animation effect is very simple and is called the page indicator. Most of you are familiar with it. It is used to inform users about page transitions or screen content switches by moving solid dots. It also provides information about the total number of pages. The shape, color, size, and the quantity of these dots should be designed based on the content of the pages. The page indicator helps users understand which page they are currently on and how many pages there are in total.
Well, everybody, that's all for our user interface animation course. I hope that after learning all these concepts, you will gain insights and improve your skills in format design and animation design.
Lastly, you will need to complete a user interface animation design, starting from the initial page and creating a complete animation that highlights the features and content of the app. Thank you all for your participation.